Hello everybody, this is Skyflight44, aka Zect44, and today we're going to be talking about the Lord of the Rings LCG cards, and specifically the Hunt for Gollum set, the first actual set after the core set. Now let's think, are any of these cards good? Are any of these cards going to be good in our campaign specifically? Well, let's see. Bilbo Baggins deviates from the established, even in the core set, established threat calculation. Add up stats. Sum is the threat cost. For Bilbo Baggins, it's a 1-1-2-2 at a cost of 9. You'll notice that's a 50% increase in threat than what he should probably have compared to every other hero in the game at this point, and the majority of heroes from here on out. This probably means he's not really worth it, but he is in a lot of aspects. You would think he would start as a mediocre hero, but that depends on whether or not you view his effect and his typing trait and defense is worth it. Number one, he draws you one additional card in the resource phase as a first player. Therefore, if you're playing solo, this is an extra card each and every single turn. If you're playing in 4-player, this is still an extra card each and every single turn. This can get you into cards that are actually going to be good for you. This can be a card that you can just pitch off for other things, such as Protector of Lorien, such as Aowen's effect. You definitely get some real decent potential out of Bilbo. Not to mention, he also just draws you a card for free. He doesn't have to be readied for this. He doesn't have to exhaust to do this. He's just going to draw you a card for free. When you look at Campfire Tales, which we're going to see later on, you draw a card. For each player draws a card anyway, for a cost of 1. In solo, that is still a 1-for-1. If you go through and play Lorien's Wealth, that's a 3-for-3. If you play Gandalf's Search at its cheapest, it's still just a 1-for-1. Outside of Beravor and Galeowine, you're not really going to be able to get too much that is going to draw you without exhausting or without paying a 1-for-1 cost. Therefore, Bilbo Baggins actually can basically get you like a free resource each and every single turn, and using that resource to draw a card. Now, is this useful? Yes, but only if Bilbo can do something. And, well, he can. At a 2 defense, even his 2 HP is not really much of a problem. With, initially, his defending is not the best option. But if you get the right attachments, he can become more effective at defending at the end of this cycle than any other defender in the game, to be honest. Because with a Burning Brand, we can just completely ignore the fact that he doesn't have, or that he needs to deal with shadow effects. We have Dunedain Warning and Protector of Lorien. We can increase his defense as much as Denethor's. If we give him a Citadel Plate, or later on, Boots of Erebor, he'll gain more HP. And we can do whatever we want with Denethor with Bilbo, except one thing. Bilbo has Fast Hitch that works on him. So instead of just having Unexpected Courage, which can ready Bilbo, we can also gain a cheaper version that just attaches to Hobbit characters. Which means we have a hell of a lot more options in getting Bilbo to defend than Denethor. Making Bilbo actually a really good defender if you have the setup for it. Again, the big thing is not whether Bilbo is useful with his effect, but whether or not you can use his effect and also get use out of him normally. And I do believe that is a way you can do so. Now, continuing on, we have Dunedain Mark and Campfire Tales as our new leadership cards. both of which are fantastic. Dunedain Mark is a signal, and we're going to get some cards later on that deal with signals. Attached to a hero, attached to gains 1 attack. Action, pay 1 resource from attached hero's pool to attach Dunedain Mark to another hero. Now let's see. Number 1, this is not restricted, which means this attack can go to any hero without you actually having to sacrifice other, like being able to put on other attachments. Therefore, a lot of different uses for this on characters that are not dwarves, such as going and adding this to Legolas, going and adding this to Dunhere, especially Dunhere, considering he can attack into the staging area. Where at this point in time, the only thing we really have is like Dwarven Axe and or the more situational Blade of Gondolin to actually increase attack power. The action on it is less useful than other signals coming up, specifically Dunedain Warning, because Dunedain Warning is much, much better than this card when it comes to the actual action. Here's the thing, paying 1 resource from attached to your pool to attach it to another one isn't really all that useful when it's attack you're talking about, because if you're using attack, then you're either attacking all at once or you can have very few or fewer attacks. With Dunedain Warning, which increases defense, that's more useful because you can continuously move it to different defenders, and you traditionally defend with 1 character. Unless you have a hell of a lot more defenses you can do. Campfire Tales, on the other hand, for a cost of 1, allows each player to draw 1 card. That is the first and one of 2 cards we get early on that actually break the 1-for-1 rule when it comes to drawing cards. And let's just say this is lovely. And these 2 cards definitely make for better support and leadership. Because in this cycle, spoilers, but leadership's only going to get 1 really good hero or ally. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Only the heroes are good. The allies are not. Or the allies are at the very least less useful than they could be. But a lot of these support cards, especially some of the attachments, are fantastic, and it's going to allow leadership to do a lot of stuff that isn't attacking. They already have plenty of allies already. Winged Guardian. Cost of 2, it's a 0/0/4/1. It's a creature, an eagle, sentinel. Winged Guardian cannot have restricted attachments. And after an attack in which Winged Guardian defends, resolves, play 1 tactics resource or discard Winged Guardian from play. Here's the thing. This is the start of our eagles. And by the end of the cycle, we're going to have enough eagle cards to really make an eagle deck. And we are going to need to do so. Because let's just say eagle cards are really good. And some of the problems that you can see in the core set are the fact that you don't have the ability to defend very well. Very much like how increasing your attack power permanently is kind of difficult. And Dunedain Mark fixes that. Campfire Tales gives you better draw power. Winged Guardian gives you an actual good defender in an ally. An ally that is specifically supposed to defend. And that is wonderful. Even if it has to discard, just being able to completely blank out an actual attack from your opponent can be more useful than anything else. And especially considering the fact that it is Sentinel on top of that. The Eagles are coming. For a cost of 0, search the top 5 cards of your deck for any number of Eagle cards and add them to your hand. Shuffle the other cards back into your deck. Now, this is also an Eagle card, so you can actually use this to also get the Eagles are coming if it's any further down your deck. I'll say that this is a useful card. but only when we get more Eagle cards. But then again, this cycle is going to give us with plenty. So, unlike other searchers, which are going to be more like mustering the Rohirrim, this one is strange. Because it gives you any number of Eagle cards to your hand, but only from the top 5 cards of your deck. It also is for free, which is nice. This is going to be the start of an Eagle deck, which is going to be coming in much later, because there is no real endpoint for Eagles right now. And we're not going to really see like a true endpoint until Return to Mirkwood at the end of this adventure cycle. Now, the Westfold Horsebreaker is a card that we use because we have no spirit allies. At a cost of 2, it's a 1/0/1/1. And it does have its uses. See, Westfold Horsebreaker has an action that we're going to see frequently in this cycle. And that you discard Westfold Horsebreaker to choose and ready a hero. Now, there are a lot of discard abilities in this adventure cycle, and some of them are more useful than others. The big thing is you can't go through and equate the cost with the cost and the effect cannot be the same. You have to view the card as, or is the cost worth having this card, using this card, and then going and being able to use it for its effect when needed. Now, Westfold Horsebreaker isn't my favorite in that case, because it can only really quest. You're not defending with it. It's not worth it. But in order to really do anything, you can go through and quest with it. And if you manage to quest with it like 3 times and then discard it to ready a hero, it's going to be a lot better than just, let's say, immediately discarding it to ready a hero on the first time you play it. Again, if you can get use out of these cards and then use their action, they're much better cards. The only thing I don't like is the fact that 1 HP kind of makes this, or kind of kills the card for me at the moment, because of, well, cards like Necromancer's Reach, where you're just going to deal damage to exhausted characters. Again, there's too many of those in this one in order to really get useful or use out of these types of cards. Mustering the Rohirrim, search the top 10 cards of your deck for any one Rohan ally and add it to your hand, then shuffle the other cards back into your deck. This is a much better searcher than the Eagles are coming, because you're very likely to be able to see any kind of card and add it to your hand. The Eagles are coming can whiff quite easily, especially if you're not running a large bulk of Eagle cards. But at least this one, you're going to find the Rohan ally you want, or hopefully the Rohan ally you want. No, it does actually cost 1. Now, at this point in time, what kind of Rohan allies do we have? We now have the Westfold Horsebreaker, but we also have Snowborn Scout. We have the it's kind of screwing with me. Wine. We have the Horseback Archer. That's kind of just it right now. But we are going to be getting a lot more Rohan allies in this adventure cycle. Once again, the Eagles, Rohan, and Dwarves are going to be a huge thing when it comes to this adventure cycle. So, let's go to the Rivendell Minstrel. At a cost of 3, it's a 2/0/0/1. It's a Noldor card, and after you play it, you search your deck for 1 song card and add it to your hand, shuffle your deck. Now, Rivendell Minstrel is going to be very useful later on, specifically in the Dead Marshes. But before that, it's kind of risky using Rivendell Minstrel, because again, 1 HP, All you need is one treachery that deals damage, and if you can't block that son of a bitch, that card is gone, and you're losing the 2 willpower in the quest. But if you have, let's say, a test that uses willpower, then Rivendell Minstrel is going to be really good. Not to mention, again, you play the card, you get a song to your hand. And I do believe during that point in the Dead Marshes is when we actually get a song that's actually really worth having. So Rivendell Minstrel is actually pretty good if you can keep it alive, because again, 2 willpower is worth having, even if it can't do anything else. Strider's Path, on the other hand, is another fix for, well, let's just say another fix for the core set, in which, after a location is revealed from the encounter deck, immediately travel to that location without resolving its travel effect. If another location is currently active, return it to the staging area. This allows you to more quickly deal with locations, especially if you have Legolas and a Blade of Gondolin or 2. You can definitely take out locations, the active location anyway, in the during the combat phase, which opens up having a no more active location. Strider's Path can move cards into the active slots, which is likely to, if they have, like, let's say 2 and 2, so 2 threat and 2 progress, you're going to be able to move that into staging, from the staging area into the active location. It's very likely to be, just by removing it, have the questing power in order to get rid of it, which makes it Strider's Path just very useful. Because again, you can completely disregard travel effects with it, and thus it's harder to get location locked, which is a huge problem with the early game. We have Song of Kings. Attached to a hero attached to gains a leadership resource icon. This allows us to throw this onto Gimli. He can then pay for leadership cards. We go and throw this onto Eowyn. She can pay for leadership cards. And that's it. We're going to see these a couple times in the, several more times to be honest, in this adventure cycle. And out of all of them, the ones I actually like the most are Song of Battle and Song of Travel. Not necessarily Song of Kings, and definitely not Song of Wisdom. Now, leadership and lore, well, leadership can generate resources all on its own. So needing to have a leadership resource icon is less necessary. Song of Wisdom, which is for lore, on the other hand, isn't very necessary when I play, because I tend to run mono lore decks. I don't generally tend to run a single lore hero. Therefore, smoothing out on those resources is not very important to me. Tactics, though, and especially Spirit, are different in that I'm more likely to throw in a single hero in that sphere into a player's deck instead of doing anything else. So smoothing out resources in those cases are a lot more important, especially Spirit, because it's going to allow you to use a test of will more often, which is always nice. So what are the best cards in this set? I'm going to go and say Campfire Tales if you're playing multiplayer, or not, probably Dunedain Mark and Winged Guardian. These are just really powerful cards right now, and again, Bilbo's not going to be useful until a little bit later on. Have a nice day, everybody.